It is week 4 of the Climate Tech Inc. NFL Prediction Show. Cole McDaniel here with Vince McKee. And before we'll get to Vince, we'll talk about our wonderful sponsor, Climate Tech Inc. And for 48 years, family-owned and operated, Climate Tech has been the premier company for all HVAC services for both residential and commercial. They have it covered. They offer free estimates on equipment replacement and 24-hour emergency service. Visit them online at climate-tech.com. Vince, you finally took over the lead. One game that we had different is we were all knotted up last week, and that one game came right down to the wire, and you ended up taking the lead away from me. Of course, we'll get into college picks here in just a moment, but how does it feel to have a one-game lead, even though we both know that doesn't typically hold up from those early season leads?
Strange territory for me, Cole. As you know, I usually play from behind. It's usually right around the end of October, Halloween time. I start to make my move. So up by a game. I'm not going to brag about this because we got 13 plus more weeks to go. And against my better judgment, and actually with my better judgment, I did not send you any kind of text on Sunday during that Titans-Raiders game because I have little to no faith in the Tennessee Titans. So the fact that they were up big, there was no, sigh of relief. And as that game got closer and closer towards the end, I thought to myself, this cannot be happening. But yes, they did pull it off. And I'll say it again. I think the Raiders are the better team. I just had a weird feeling like the Titans are going to win. Went with that game. This week, though, that was the only game we picked different. This week might be a little bit different. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited, Cole, to talk some football with you.
Yeah, so we'll start with college football, as we always start on this show. We're going to go with our top 25 matchup. It's actually number 7 Kentucky and number 14 Ole Miss as SEC conference play is getting going. This one could be quite interesting. Vince, how do you see this one shaking out?
Well, Ole Miss is going to have to go out there and get it done this week. A lot of eyeballs on them, a marquee matchup, and I think they're going to actually pull the upside in this one. I'm not sure of the spread. Do you know the spread on that? I can't believe they would be a favorite.
Well, let me pull that up. I can let you know.
I just don't. Regardless, I think they're going to win. College football is so sketchy early on in the season.
Yeah, and the spread on that one is Ole Miss being favored by 7 points, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and they are at home. Ole Miss is at home, so that's probably part of it.
Yeah, I think that's why they're favored. I'll go with Ole Miss. I have no dog in that hunt.
Yeah, I don't either. Even though they're going on the road, I think Kentucky comes away with this one. I just think Kentucky gets it done. Tough matchup, fairly close game, but I've been impressed with what I've seen from Kentucky. So I'm going with the Wildcats, and they have really improved that program the last couple of seasons, and they're on the right track. Deserve to be a top 10 team right now.
Oh, and absolutely. I will touch on that as well, too. If they win, and I mean, there's no taking it from them at that point, right? A team got to, college football, you get off to that hot start, and you still don't know what to expect. But when you're still winning games, big games in October, and this would be October 1st, I mean, yeah, you can't take it from them. They have not really been a presence in college football since Tim Couch. And even when Tim Couch was there, they were going like 8-5, right? So they're known for basketball. So it'll be interesting. I think it'd be good to see. I'm fine with that. Like if they win, I think it's kind of cool actually.
So the second one, we're going to turn to the Big Ten. And before we get to this announcement today, of course, you know how I feel. It's Ohio State for me. That's who I support. It's who I watch. In the West, though, I really like Northwestern. I like Pat Fitzgerald. I like that program. Mm-hmm. Really cool school. Did you see about their plans with tearing down the old Ryan Stadium, the Ryan Field, and putting together the new one? Now it's 12,000 less seats because they already don't fill the current one, but it looks really, really cool. So that's something interesting. They already have an excellent facility there, that glass training facility overlooking the lake. Now, if they can just really improve that stadium, that's going to be cool. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check that out, Vince.
I'll check that out, and I'll be honest, I have not. It's been it's been a little bit of a busy day. So and by the way, I'm not going to break anything on the NFL prediction show, but We got some big news coming with Keon Sports, and that's part of my busy day. So, as I always say, we'll talk about that later.
So let's get to the Big Ten game, though. And it's not Northwestern we're talking about. They've got a matchup against Penn State. Instead, the Big Ten game I want to discuss is Michigan State and Maryland. Reason why I want to talk about this one. Maryland, like I said, would give Michigan a test. And
Yep.
they did all the way till the end. Michigan State on a skid right now. They went out to Washington, a game that you and I discussed, and they
Sure.
lost.
Yep.
And then against Minnesota walked all over them. They controlled that game. They dominated Michigan State. Mel Tucker, after getting that huge contract, he's got to be getting a little bit concerned where, hey, he got a ton of money. They're expecting him to really do well with that program. He's not going to be on the hot seat yet. Certainly not. But it's got to be one of those things where he's thinking, we need a bounce back game really bad. And Maryland's a good football team. Now, Tulia Tagovailoa, a little bit banged up. Can Michigan State go down there and stop the losing streak? Or is Maryland good enough to win this one, even if Tua, like I said, Tulia is not at full health? The backup might play.
Cole, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm going to go with Michigan State, but I think if they win, it is going to be on a walk-off field goal. It is literally going to come down to the wire. As you called it last week, you said Michigan would win, but you said Maryland was going to give them a game, and I got to give you credit, man. You nailed it. You nailed it. So now, does Maryland have a bit, despite losing, do they have a bit of a let up, thinking, okay, Michigan State isn't very good this year. Maybe they're a little bit full of themselves after playing Michigan so closely. That happens. It happens in the pros. Will it happen to them? Time will tell. But to your other point, though, Michigan State is down this year. They are down. And again, this coach is coming with this gigantic contract all of a sudden. This is, I mean, you never use the term must win in October. I get it. But, man, they need to win this game, Cole. I'm going to go with Michigan State. But when you sent me the text and I was looking at your choices, I'm like, that's a damn good selection right there. Like last week with your Tennessee, Florida. And fans, I don't know if you want to check that game out, but, man, that was a barn burner, too.
Yeah, and this one could be really, really interesting between these two teams. I just think it's a good matchup. If Tulia was fully healthy and like he did not play really the end of that game against Michigan, not really sure about the update. I know it's still a couple of days out from when they'd actually be playing on Saturday. So we'll see what actually happens there. Whether he's in and he's not at full health or whether he is out, I think that allows Michigan State enough of a sliver of an opportunity where they stop the losing streak, and a down Michigan State does get the win here against a pretty good Maryland team, a team that I think is going to make it to a bowl game. They should. No reason why they shouldn't win 6 games this season, but I actually have this one going 24-23, nail biter, right down to the wire, 1 point between those two teams, and you said it might be a game-winning field goal, and I think it's really hard to tell. We're splitting hairs when it comes to that game.
Oh, yeah. I think me and you are identical with that thought process. No doubt about it.
Now, another one that I don't think we're going to say is splitting hairs. We already talked about the top 25 game. I'm going to say that these two ranked teams playing against each other, though, is another one that I wanted to discuss. This is probably not going to be as close of a game as Kentucky Ole Miss, is my guess. But it's still two top 25 teams. Start of SEC conference play. Alabama, number 2 in the country, playing against number 20 Arkansas. And Arkansas fell last week. Game that they maybe should have won. They had the opportunities. They fumbled at the 1-yard line. Field goal hit the top of the upright. Really rough weekend for Arkansas. Can they get back on track? Maybe even make things interesting against Alabama.
Yeah, Arkansas is going to need Ryan Mallett, Derek McFadden, maybe some more of their alumni there to come out and help them. I think Alabama's going to run them at least 2 touchdowns.
It's so funny you mentioned that because here's what I think. And we're hitting October, so we're hitting that dangerous season. We're celebrating fall right now. We're not going to get too much into the Christmas thing. But what I want to say is this.
Wait, is your tree up? Because I remember last year's.
No, it is not up. that was because we got our tree. First tree as a married couple. We went ahead and did that, myself and Megan. This year, the tree would be right behind me. You
I
see
know.
no tree here. But
Sorry,
I
go
always
ahead.
remember as a kid just the tradition on my parents and I. You always used to go get a live tree. The thing is, that would be on Black Friday, the day right after Thanksgiving.
I know exactly where you're going with this, but yeah, go ahead.
Arkansas and LSU
Yep.
would always play, and that team was so interesting for Arkansas. Darren McFadden, Felix Jones,
Yep.
Peyton Hillis. What an interesting backfield. Three really good guys, and Darren McFadden lit up college football, was an unreal player. Whenever we think of Arkansas, I always think back to those guys, and we might have even had a similar conversation here before on this show,
We did.
but that team was so fun to watch. It would be so cool to see Arkansas get to that point.
Yep.
They're good right now, but they're not that level, and I don't know if they can ever get back to that. Alabama rolls. Everybody's going to be chanting Roll Tide down there, and they're going to be convincing in this game.
And one quick thing for the fans, Cole, about that Black Friday game. So Ohio State needed all kinds of crazy things to happen for them to make the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That was just one. So Arkansas won that game, right? It was a crazy game. Arkansas won it, and then they still needed like Kansas to win, and just all kinds of crazy stuff the Buckeyes needed to get in. And then we all thought, that there was no way they would have to play LSU in the national championship game because LSU losing to Arkansas, that should have been it.
Right.
Come to find out, they end up playing LSU and they get smacked. But yeah,
Right.
that was just crazy. I remember that so fondly. That was 07.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was. Now, speaking of miracles, as we move from college football to the NFL, will we see a lot more upsets this week? I know you and I were picking the favorites last week a lot more prior to those couple other weeks. Those couple other weeks we were talking about more upsets. Last week is a little bit more difficult. We're going to get to the marquee matchup here first.
Okay.
Now, you chose the Titans over the Raiders last week, and I chose the Raiders. We're going to stick with the Tennessee Titans here. There are other bigger marquee matchups, but why I want to talk about this one is that AFC South is so wide open. Jacksonville sits at that top spot. It's hard to believe that Jacksonville's quite there yet to where they're going to hold that spot. You would think these two teams, the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans, it's going to come down to one of these two teams probably winning that division. Even if Jacksonville has a good season, I just don't think Jacksonville is quite there yet to be able to do it. Could they turn into something good down the road and be a power because of Trevor Lawrence and what they're establishing? Yes, but I think they're very young right now. They don't have the experience to do it. So I want to turn to this one. Can either of these teams really have a miracle and truly get things clicking? Yes, the Colts got the upset against the Chiefs, courtesy of, the Chiefs fill-in kicker for Harrison Butker, missing some kicks. The Chiefs honestly should have won that game over the Colts. The Titans did not have a convincing win over the Raiders, but they got it done. So both got the win. Can either of these two teams get things clicking again? And what do you think happens, Vince?
Oh, I think they both will. I think they're going to finish 1-2 in the division. I have the Colts winning this game, and I also have the Colts winning the division, which is something me and you have felt strongly about, going back 2 seasons. I like Matty Ice. Been a Matt Ryan fan for a while. I don't know if he's the guy who's going to get you over the top. But that being said, I do believe they're the better team. I want to see what's going to happen here. This is a game the Colts should have won last year that they lost. And it really kind of, in certain ways, it sparked them because they went on to win like 4 or 5 straight. Then they collapsed in the end of the season. But all that being said, I think the Colts are the better team. And after a while, the better team needs to start winning these games. Going to go with the Colts. I do feel it's going to go 1-2-3 where Jacksonville finishes in third, though. You're going to see the Jaguars slip off eventually.
So Matt Ryan still has the ability to put the ball on the money and find his open wide receivers. He still has the leadership ability. Now there's some zip that's taken off of the football. Did he always have the best arm strength and was the best when it came to the intangibles? No. But he is a very good quarterback still. The problem with him right now is he keeps getting pressure from his backside, it feels like, and he
Yep.
keeps fumbling the dang football.
Yep. I agree.
So he keeps putting it on the turf here at this point, which is putting that team in danger. The other thing is they're not getting Jonathan Taylor out enough, which is hard to believe with how good that offensive line really is, how
Right.
good they should be. They need to get things moving again and open up holes for Jonathan Taylor because he is the key. The Colts and the Browns have a lot of similarities when it comes to their offense. Now, Matt Ryan doesn't need to manage the game quite as much as they do need to with Jacoby Brissett for the Browns, but Matt Ryan's not a guy who's going to just completely unleash. He's going to find his possession receivers. Alec Pierce is not a big play guy. He's a possession receiver. Michael Pittman Jr., possession receiver. You don't have a ton of big game breakers aside from Paris Campbell, but you're not going to see a ton of production from him. It's going to be spotty, little things here or there. So you need to run that football. They need to find a way to open it up for Jonathan Taylor. I think the Colts get it done here. You and I are on the same page that they win this division. It's so early in the season, but this game is very crucial to who actually wins this division because the way these two teams are trending, we might actually see this. Remember when the NFC East had a team win the division where they were like right around 500 and the rest of the division was like struggling?
Wasn't that long ago?
This could be the AFC South this year. You could literally see the division winner beat about 9-8 with the way that division is playing. I wouldn't be shocked. So this is huge for both of these teams. Whoever wins this fast tracks themselves, and really they're going to have to mess things up and get off rhythm. And really, if they do that, then they might lose this. But I've got the Colts. I'm with you. Colts win this division.
There are 3 teams from the AFC West who are better than that entire division. Despite the Raiders losing, I would still say the Raiders are better than the Titans and the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
And not clearly San Diego. Oh, I did it again. Not San Diego. Chargers. Chargers number 1, Chiefs number 2. So we'll see how it plays out. And that's another thing. I think that right now the Chargers are 1-2. Like, if you look at the records real quick of the teams that are 3-0 and some of the teams that are 1-2, I don't think that tells the true story. And and you saw it firsthand with the Giants this past weekend going into that Cowboys game, 2-0. They were the fakest 2-0 team I think I've ever seen.
It is a shame for the Los Angeles Chargers what's going on there because they have the talent and the ability to win that division. Problem is, they might just be the unlucky team that gets the injury bug and gets plagued this season.
It's been going on for years.
Keenan Allen goes down. Now he's going to be back here before too long, maybe even this week. But Justin Herbert banged up. He's back. He's out there and playing and battling through it, but he was not that great this past week. He's going to have to get back to his normal ways and really rest up and heal up. The defense as well, and I'll split back to the offense here in a moment, but the defense a little bit decimated with the loss of Joey Bosa. Yes, you still have Khalil Mack, but Joey Bosa going to have surgery now, so he'll be out for a while because of his groin injury. And then you have Rashawn Slater with his bicep injury there, the star left tackle for them. Their team is really getting decimated with injuries. We might even be able to forget about them winning the division. If they can pull it out, that would be fantastic. But they're still a team that has the ability to get it to the playoffs. But, I mean, it really looked like on paper everything was shaping up this year.
Yeah, and then I know we want to move on to the next game, so I'll make this quick. I don't think they have the coaching Cole to get over that. And this guy has shown this last season. He is not – he's a young guy, their coach. His last name eludes me. I apologize. I can see his face in my glasses right now. But
Yeah.
he
Staley.
Sorry, thank you. He's from Ohio, so I really should know that.
Yeah.
But regardless, he
Northeast
is.
Ohio.
Yes. Shame on me. But no, he needs to step it up. His coaching decisions have not been great.
No. We'll see what happens there, but we're going to keep it in the division. Move to Sunday Night Football. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, for everybody down there in Florida, hope everybody is well, staying safe. Out of the hurricane, the storm down there, things are starting to get crazy. Now, Miami not getting hit because they're down in that far right-hand corner where that storm wasn't tracking. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went down to Miami. That's where they're practicing right now. Tampa was supposed to host this game. We'll see if anything changes. Nice of Miami to let Tampa go down there and use the facilities as Miami was going up to Cincinnati here in Ohio to play on Thursday night. So we'll see if anything changes, what happens, if this still remains a game that's played in Florida for Tampa Bay. But you would think with the way their offense has been performing, their defense looks great, Vince, and I'll start this off, but the defense looks really good. They're still getting things done. Problem is the offense is just not there. Tom Brady's not looking the same. There have been a lot of injury issues with the wide receivers. And then Mike Evans was suspended last week. Russell Gage really had to step up. He had the one fumble, but he had a lot of receptions. I think 12 of them, got the touchdown. He was really their guy they could depend upon. Now, if they start getting some of those receivers back, can they get it going? For their sakes, they hope so. But keep in mind, that offensive line is not what it should have been on paper beginning of the season because of injuries. The Chiefs, simply despite losing this past week, if they can figure out about getting Harrison Butker back here sooner rather than later, or if they can find a better kicker out there to fill in, then they should be okay here. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs winning this one. Even if the Buccaneers stop them a little bit, they're going to be able to put up enough points and they'll be able to slow down that Buccaneers offense that really is having some struggles.
I feel that right now both these teams are a little bit angry, especially Kansas City. We saw stuff with Bieniemy and Mahomes yelling at each other, at the close of the first half. I just don't think, and I've given this a lot of thought, and I don't think Kansas City is capable of losing two straight games. I just think they're too good to lose two straight games. Now, if they were coming into this game 3-0, I still don't think I would take Tampa Bay, but just the fact that they're coming off a loss makes me even more want to take Kansas City, and that's what I'm going to do. I still feel like they're the most talented all-around team in the AFC. I think Buffalo is going to be surpassing them any week now, but at this stage, I still feel strong enough in taking the Chiefs to win that game. Tampa Bay, though, like you said, Cole, they got some issues going on over there. Strong place kicker. He's on my fantasy team. That's probably the only reason why I know that, but Suck Up is really good. Their defense has been looking great this year. They held Aaron Rodgers to, I want to say 14 points, I think that was. So, they have pieces and parts that are there. You never count out Tom Brady, but at the same time, I'm just excited for this one. Again, Sunday Night Football. They're playing that old man song and everything. I'm sure you've seen the preview. It's kind of funny. It's kind of cool at the same time. But all that aside, I like Patrick Mahomes. It's prime time. I think should be at least. Let's see where the torch is finally passed. We'll see. But yeah, going to go with Kansas City.
So, Vince, as we move to the upset games this week, I actually have a slew of upset games. I have quite a bit of them. Now, I'm going a direction here that I wouldn't be surprised if you picked this game as well, but I wasn't sure if you'd make this your official upset game. It is one where really the visiting team, I think obviously if they're playing at a neutral site or at home, they would be the favorites. But the Los Angeles Rams travel to the San Francisco 49ers, and the Rams find themselves as underdogs. The 49ers have a pretty good defense. They played in an absolute stinker of a game against the Denver Broncos. It was terrible, honestly.
Bad.
Which is so interesting because we love those primetime games like Sunday Night Football and things like that. This year, the games just have not lived up to what I think everybody thought they would be. Hopefully that takes a turn because we've seen some really good seasons with just game after game after game where Sundays are great. We've been on a little bit of a run here first couple of weeks where it hasn't been that way. Hopefully that turns around. But as for this one, 49ers, pretty good stuff on defense. I think their offense is better with Jimmy G. Don't hold the Broncos game strictly against them there. But the Rams are too good, honestly, at this point. I just feel a lot more confident in the Rams rather than a 49ers-led team that is better on offense with Jimmy G. Problem for him is he didn't even have the playbook for a while because he thought he was going elsewhere. And now he's doing some last-minute studying, staying up late trying to crunch type of a thing. Yeah. So I think it might take a couple weeks for him to get really back in the swing of things. And it should be one where the Rams get the win on the road.
Well, it's interesting to me, and I'm glad we're doing this show because I, too, have a slew of upsets this week. I picked 4 of them. And 3 of them, which I'm going to give you right now, I had to like triple check like 4 times. Am I looking at this correct? So Cole, by any stretch, let me know, and I'm gonna get to those in a second. My official upset pick is Chicago over the Giants. Gonna go with
Okay.
the Bears. Like I said, I think the Giants were a very fraudulent 2-0. I like Barkley. Saquon Barkley appears like he's fully healthy now for the first time in years. Again, probably because I didn't pick him on my fantasy team for once, but he is really seems like he's back to normal. Other than that, they don't have much. And I think the Giants are a long way off from even being competitive. I'm not fooled at all by that this 2-1 start, not one bit. With that being the case, we've talked about it to death. I've always said, especially the last 2 years, that the Chicago Bears are a heck of a lot better than people think. Give them some time to grow. You're going to see some maturity. You're going to see some ups and downs from Justin Fields. But as long as they stick with them, give them every single snap, don't mess with anything, I think they're going to get better. They have a better coach this year. They're positioned better. Going to make them my official upset pick, Chicago over the Giants. But now I need to ask you a question. You've already confirmed the one answer that I had. I had the Rams at San Francisco, and I took the Rams, and I couldn't figure out how they're an underdog. But you just told me that they are, so I agree with you. Obviously, they are. I'm reading it correctly. The two other ones I want to ask you that I picked, and technically I'm picking the underdog, and I can't for the life of me figure out how. Okay. One, I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals over the Carolina Panthers. I don't know what universe, even with the receiving issues that Arizona has right now, how in the world are they an underdog? And two, Minnesota against New Orleans. It's in London. I understand that. But when you look at both those teams, what's his face? The quarterback in Minnesota folds
Kirk
every,
Cousins.
yeah, Kirk Cousins folds every single time under any kind of
Yeah.
spotlight. And granted, it's not, it's national televised. I get all that, and it's not at night and blah blah blah. But I don't get how are they the favorite in that game? Delvin Cook probably won't even play. Just the odds makers this week were just so strange to me. But yeah, I mean, I'll give you four. Like I said, I agree with you. Rams over Niners, Cardinals over Cards, Bears over Giants, Saints over Minnesota.
Well, you gave me a lot to unpack. And I'll start with the Bears first. Justin Fields, I agree with you. A lot of talent there. What's the problem? They only let him throw the ball about 15 times a game. There is absolutely no rhythm he can get into. You feel for people who on their fantasy teams have Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney and guys like that, because they should honestly touch the football, but they just try to run. They're all based on it's about field position and playing the field position game, get a team buried deep, and they trust their defense to get it done. And they can put up just enough points. Low scoring games with the Bears. They should give Justin Fields some more opportunity, get him in a rhythm. I actually took the Giants in that game.
Wow.
That's one where you would expect me to go with the Bears.
I did.
I just think Giants lost this past week. I just have a gut feeling that with the Bears there, it's going to be a turnover-based game going back and forth. I just think Saquon Barkley's hitting another level here this season. If he can stay healthy, I could see him easily being the rushing champ. My guess, it's going to come down to between him and Chubb if both stay healthy. They've had a hot start with the way those offenses play. I expect it to maybe come down to those two guys. So Barkley is the difference maker probably there. I think he gets it done for his team. Now, switching over to how you were talking about some of these where it's hard to believe that they're underdogs. I also had the New Orleans Saints over the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Kirk Cousins folds under the bright lights. The later the game starts, the worse he plays. So it's at 9:30 in the morning in the United States on U.S. time. So maybe for Kirk Cousins, the earlier it starts, the better. Obviously, it's different time zone over there, but maybe he'll still be on U.S. time and be lights out at 9:30 in the morning. But as for that game, I have the Saints bouncing back because they lost this past week. The Vikings pulled one out of thin air against the Lions, made the comeback. It just feels like tides are going to turn. Now, Jameis might not play this upcoming week, but regardless, Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket there, I think he could still step in and honestly get it done. But don't be surprised with the maybe injury issue with Dalvin Cook, a couple of those things. Don't be surprised if you end up seeing the Saints win that one. Now, the other thing, you mentioned how are the Cardinals underdogs against the Panthers? I think it's simply that the Cardinals have just been atrocious the first couple of weeks. And Vegas, they're overreading into that. The Panthers won this last week, but you and I both know the Panthers look terrible.
Yeah.
They have not been good at all. Cardinals haven't looked good either, but we all know Kyler Murray, he's the better quarterback out there. Again, we expect to just see the Cardinals both get that one done.
Kirk Cousins,
and we're not going to drop the name.
No, we're not.
Remember the swear jar that we need to start here. This is week 4. I'm trying to set you up, and hopefully you can hold up to the test.
Yes, I'm doing quite fine. But I will tell you this real quick, though. Kirk Cousins is what I call the cut-to guy. Here's what I mean by that. If you watch the entire Minnesota Vikings game, he loses. They lose. He's the cut-to guy. So if you're watching a game and they cut to the Vikings at the end, and it's like a 1 minute or 2 minute scenario, the Vikings seem to win. He's my cut-to guy. Remember that. If you're ever sitting there and watching, we're going to cut to the end of the Vikings game, they're probably going to win. He's the ultimate cut-to guy.
Well, let's take a look now at the Browns game here, and we'll move to this
No
one.
response.
No response. Right. Got to get to the Browns game.
I know.
As they play against the Atlanta Falcons. The Browns off to a very good start. Can't believe they're not 3-0, but 2-1 can't really go wrong with that. I think a lot of people were doubting Jacoby Brissett coming into this season. I mean, on average, his completions averaging 7 yards, but it's dink and dunk underneath. He throws it low. He's not really turning the ball over. He's controlling that game, and the run game has been dominant. Now, the Falcons have been a whole lot better than what people would have expected. The Falcons already put a few wins together. Cordero Patterson out of the backfield looking good. Kyle Pitts turning the corner. Drake London has been better than what I expected. I question his lack of separation coming out of college, but right now he's doing well. And Mariota performing better than I would have thought. Their defense, not great. They're going to give up points, but the offense, right now, until maybe teams get them figured out a little bit, they're doing some things. And the Browns have plenty of guys who they've got injury issues, linebacking core. Obviously glad to see that Myles Garrett is fairly okay after the car accident. Again, a scary situation there. Maybe a chance that we'd see him this weekend. Would be surprised if that's the case, though, after some of the bumps and bruises and the knocks he took. Wouldn't be surprised if he takes this week off. But can the defense of the Browns, I think this is the question. We know the Browns will score some points. I don't think the Falcons will really stop the Browns offense. Can the Browns defense stop the Falcons enough, do just enough to get the Browns the win here?
Yes. So I think this is a mental preparation game. You said it. You said it perfectly. This is something where now they have 3 weeks of the Atlanta Falcons game film on tape. They know what Marcus Mariota does. They should have more than enough time to prepare for him. I think our secondary is strong enough. We saw a lot of improvement last week, maybe not a ton against Pittsburgh. Now, they're not going to be able to rush the quarterback without Myles Garrett, and obviously Clowney's still out, so you're not going to see a real heavy pass rush. But when it comes to a guy against like Marcus Mariota, I don't know. You almost kind of want to keep him in the pocket in a way. I mean, I'm okay with them dropping back the linebackers a little bit and maybe even playing a cover 2 with this team. The Falcons do not have enough threats at this time on offense to scorch the Browns. Yeah, they're off to a good start. But again, that being said, now the Browns ball control offense, again, I'm happy with maybe 2 possessions a quarter. Whatever gets it done. Ball control offense, run that ball. Jacoby Brissett is not the answer by any stretch. But again, he's not going to lose you the game at this point. As you said, he protects the ball. He dinks and dunks. He does what he needs to do. And right now for the Browns, that's the recipe as they play with some of those lower-end teams. Just get in, get that win, and get out of there.
Yeah, and Jacoby is just finding the sure hands of Amari Cooper. Great route runner. He's getting it done. Really, it almost looks like nobody can stop him because you're so worried about the run. You're allowing him to go 1v1 with a corner. And he is such an excellent route runner that he is going to come up with catches. He's got pretty sure hands as well. Very few drops in that man's career. David Njoku also stepping up. We talked about it. Glad to see David Bell spend some more time out on the field as well. Really only 1-2 targets, but I wouldn't be surprised to see his workload step up. So there are good things there. Defensively, you mentioned it. Mariota dangerous with his feet. I think you need to play quarterback contain against him.
Yep.
It's not as much about the pass rush. It is about keeping him in the pocket. and Jacob Phillips, who's going to step up in the absence of Anthony Walker Jr. I think he's athletic enough to be the guy you use as the spy.
Me too.
On Mariota. You rush 4, you rush 3, you set the edge, you keep quarterback contained, you let Phillips spy on Mariota, and if Mariota starts to run, Phillips chases him down. I think that's how you have to play against them, and I think you can limit them enough that you get this win down at Mercedes-Benz. By the way, a gorgeous stadium, and going to be one of the locations for when 2026, when we get to the World Cup, again, a place that will also host. But it's a great stadium down there, great venue, and I think the Browns should be able to come back with a W.
Yeah, we're almost a month away from the World Cup coming up in 2022. I know me and you have had some discussions about that in the past as well. But hey, when you choose a country when it's going to be 130 degrees in July, that's what happens. Real quick though on that, real quick. I do remember a couple of years ago us talking about Phillips. I was super excited when we drafted him. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say it was a 4th rounder, but I think the Browns found a steal in him, and now he's going to have this opportunity to really show them what he could do. I hope he knocks it out of the park. I've been a big Phillips fan for years.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Phillips fan, but I want him to be successful. I hope he does well. I didn't necessarily want them to draft him that much because LSU, in my mind, had been deemed the place of injury-prone players.
Yeah.
So I really wasn't too excited about them picking him. I knew he had the athletic ability as a linebacker, can move around. Now's his opportunity to step up because he's had his fair share of injury issues and hasn't spent as much time on the field as you would like to see. Walker was the better guy, and Walker had been lights out to start the season. It's a shame that he went down, is injured, out for the season. Hopefully we can get him back next year because I'd love to see Walker be in that linebacking core as a leader for quite a bit longer. But Phillips, now's his time to shine. The Browns need him, and we know he has the athletic ability. If he can really step up, he could see himself here in Cleveland a whole lot longer. A guy who's versatile, I think, can play at that middle linebacker spot, could even play a little bit of outside linebacker based on his size, his athleticism, if needed. So really has an opportunity to sustain his career in Cleveland here.
Agreed. Let's see what happens. I mean, this is a big win if they could get it. You said too, if you go back and play that schedule game preseason, I'm looking at the Patriots as a loss. I'm looking at the Chargers as a loss. Now all that looks different. A few injuries, all that looks different. For the Browns, they could get this win. They could still win late, and the next thing you know, they might be 4-1 in a couple of weeks. No one saw it coming. Let's ride out that storm. Let's go. And then at the same time, Cole, one less week for Deshaun Watson. One less week for Deshaun Watson. One less week for Deshaun Watson. Don't think I'm not thinking about it every single day.
Yeah, it is quickly approaching. It is nipping at our heels, and you know what else is nipping at your heels, and that is myself, only down 1 game here in these predictions. Again, you see it here on the screen. Vince, 27-21 on the season. I am 26-22. If you want to see the full predictions, our full picks for this week, go to keyonsports.com. As we wrap up the show, a reminder, our wonderful sponsor, Climate Tech Inc. They've been around for 48 years, and they're a family-owned and operated company. They're really the premier company for all HVAC services for both residential and commercial. They have it covered. They offer free estimates on equipment replacement and 24-hour emergency service. Visit them online at climate-tech.inc. So Climate Tech, great sponsor. Shout out to them again. Everybody, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do. Any last words, Vince?
Yes. Avon at Olmsted Falls this weekend. Tyler Baca will be there. Medina at Menor. Menor at Medina. Cole McDaniel will be there. Holy War. Vince McKee will be there Saturday. Check us out. High school football. Cole, take us home.
Huge high school football week. Everybody, thanks for watching and listening. Enjoy a wonderful week 4 of football.